G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here, and if you're seeing this background, it probably means I'm either doing a tutorial or starting a new playthrough. Which is it? Yeah, it's a new playthrough, guys. Look, I have started playing through the main campaign so many times, but it is really hard for me to do this because I really don't get the chance to record as often as I would like. But when the times when I'm not up to recording, I'm still wanting to play the game. And so it gets to be really hard to balance that. So I really want to show you guys a playthrough, but I've decided I'm just not going to show you everything. And I've talked in a couple of my previous videos just recently about the party that I had been playing. I had played a couple of different playthroughs recently over the last few months, and I wanted to play a ranger again, and I'm using the turn-based combat mod. I've got the animal companion mod that allows me to see their health, even see them on the list of portraits if I want. Everything that really would just make it really so very easy to play with animal companions. And so I thought, I'll give it another try. So I started a playthrough a week or so ago, probably a couple of weeks ago, I think, with my primary character as an archery ranger, first companion, another archery ranger, third companion, at least in the front row, if you want to call it the front row, Ekindeo, and then two sacred huntsmen, inquisitors, spectres, archers, and Lindsay in the middle at the back. All with, so 5 animal companions: Smilodon, bear, leopard, wolf, and Ekindeo's what he calls dog, but it is a wolf as well. And what I'm finding is I love it. It's a great playthrough. There are some issues with moving the animal companions at times, but I can live with that. I can deal with that. I'm just slaying things left, right, and center. I mean, none of the fights have been that hard. It's been wonderful. On normal level, I only play normal. On normal difficulty, none of the fights have been that hard. It's been great. I love this playthrough. But I've looked at it and gone, when I'm doing healing, during combat or after a combat, I've got 2 Sacred Huntsman Inquisitors there, loaded up with healing spells, and Lindsay with whatever healing spells she can get. And most of the time, I find myself using scrolls or potions to heal rather than those guys, because I want to leave them in case I need them in combat before I can get back to town to get more scrolls or potions. And I look at it then and go, I can just do this without the Sacred Huntsmasters. I could just have a party full of rangers and Lindsay. And I actually want to talk just really briefly about one of the things I think that influenced me on this. It's one of the R.A. Salvatore novels from the Forgotten Realms that are on Drizzt Do'Urden. So there's the 3 books which delve into, it's like the second series that he wrote. He wrote the first series, which was all about Icewind Dale and that. And then the second series sort of explored Drizzt's beginnings, and the first book was Drizzt being born in the Underdark and surviving, living in Menzoberranzan, and then at the end of that, he kills a fellow drow and is very upset by it and leaves. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert if you haven't read any of these. The second book is him trying to live by himself in the Underdark and then finding some companions, some actual friendship with other races in the Underdark. And then realizing, though, that his family is hunting him and they're never going to leave him alone. He thinks the only place he can survive without them coming after him is the surface. So at the end of the second book, he makes his way to the surface. And in the third book, he's out on the surface trying to understand what it's like up on the surface and trying to understand the world around him. And, he spends an entire winter in this cave with a bear. And then as he leaves in that winter, you meet this other person, Montilio de Brochet, I'm assuming is the sort of way you'd pronounce it. Monty to his friends. And he's an old blind ranger who's looking after this valley, keeping an eye on some orcs that are nearby and protecting the animals in this valley. And he has this grumpy old bear that lives with him, and Hooter, this owl that comes by that lives with him, and a few other animals. And the animal friends have sort of told him about this drow elf living in this cave with this other old bear called Bluster, which nobody, I think that was what it was called, which no one would really spend, that bear is so grouchy he wouldn't let anyone spend time with him normally, but somehow this drow has done it. And so Monty is very sort of interested in this guy. And eventually, Dritz makes his way and ends up meeting up with Monty, and Monty ends up sort of taking him in and looking after him and helping him and actually befriending him and teaching him that all of this stuff that he is learning on the surface, all of these and all of the things that he was even doing in the Underdark was all part of a ranger. And it's not Dritz that gets me into the ranger as much and this party full of rangers. It's one little tiny, it's like almost a throwaway paragraph in the history of Montilio de Brochet, Monty, is that he used to be part of an adventuring party of rangers. It was just a group of rangers that used to go around and adventure together. And I have lots of different ideas as to what a ranger is. You've got the end of his career, Monty, the guy that almost, and this is showing my age along with my, salt and pepper facial hair and lack of hair. But as a kid, there was a TV show from America that I used to watch called Grizzly Adams, about this youngish man. He wasn't old, but he had a beard, which wasn't common in the 70s and 80s. And it was based on this guy living in the wilderness in the US with this bear as a companion in the 1800s and the 1850s, 1860s, something like that. And it is loosely based on a real person sort of thing. But it was this story about this guy who just lived in the woods and was self-sufficient. And he was a little bit trying to look after the area, and he had an Indian friend, and he had this old prospector who used to come by who was a friend, and all this sort of stuff. I don't really remember a huge amount of the episodes or anything like that, but that formed a lot of an idea of what a ranger was to me. And then a lot of stuff from Lord of the Rings about Aragorn and his travels through the wilds and all that sort of stuff. And for me, there's a couple of different, you've got the ranger who just lives in his valley and looks after an area. It doesn't have to be a valley. It can be Dritz living on the slopes of the Lonely Mountain, of whatever the name of the mountain is up in Icewind Dale, or there could be any different terrain that these people are looking after. You could be looking after the shores of a lake. A ranger that sort of paddles around in his canoe all day long, looking out for monsters and people around the lake and helping them out and stuff. But yeah, the group of wandering rangers that are out just sort of generally trying to help the area by looking out for evil threats and seeing what they can do to reduce them. And that's one of the reasons why I don't see rangers as being anything but good. Because to me, a ranger it is a lot influenced by the rangers from Lord of the Rings. Just this sort of semi-secret, sort of shadowy group of guys or people. Let's not be sexist at all, and let's not be speciesist either. Heroes, companions of any age, sex, race, what have you, that have this desire to protect those around them and look after them and make sure that the roads are clear of bandits and the forests are clear of monsters and that the average person, be they a resident or a traveller, can sit down for the night, camp for the night somewhere or have their house in in the field somewhere and not be worried that they're going to be attacked at any time of the day or night by, evil anywhere. That's my idea of a ranger. And so I'm going to build my ranger party. So I'm going to show you my build here of my standard ranger. You will have seen me do this before. Let me just pause for a second while I go through the 2,000 odd portraits that I've got here and find the portrait that I think I want to use, or find a portrait that I want to use. I'm not sure just yet, but I'll back in a sec. Hang on. Okay. So I do like this one, but the fact that you can't have an animal, like a bird as an animal companion in this game, is so annoying. So I'm actually going to use this one, which unfortunately obscures his face a little bit, but I think this is the one that I want to use. So that's going to be my portrait. Human, of course. Bit of a beard, messy hair, although I think his hair is actually probably better than that one. That's all good. Let's go ranger as per usual. As I've said, this is going to be a standard ranger because I want the animal companion. You don't get the animal companion as any other ranger. Standard build, 18, 14 for strength, 14 for con, 14 for wisdom. Persuasion, perception, trickery, athletics, and mobility, I think. Normally I would take some of these, law, nature, law, world, etc. But I think that's a good group. Okay. Standard here, point blank shot, precise shot. I'm going to take humans as my favorite enemy to get all of those pesky bandits, etc. And we are going to go with Tony, of course. And I'm going to do... is that... Yes, that's right. And look at that. I'm starting this on the 26th of October, so there we go. And I'm actually going to pick lawful good. No, neutral good. I can't bring myself to do lawful good. I mean, I will select lawful good options, but yeah. So, okay, so I've just skipped over all of that. Just came back to tell you that what I'm going to do, starting off here, is I'm not going to show you any of this prologue. The only stuff I'm going to show you initially is me leveling up at various points, adding new party members, and things like that. Now, I will tell you before I go any further what the plan is, okay? So the plan is to have me, of course, Ranger Tony, with my Smilodon animal companion, my longbow. I am also going to do something which I sort of advocate often not to do, and that is I am going to take another weapon with me at all times. What I'm mostly going to have, though, is any cold iron weapons that I can find, because that's the thing that's going to really let us down. Any creatures that are invulnerable and can only be damaged by cold iron, you cannot get a cold iron bow, right? And I think one of the range of spells later on, I think it might be like Greater Magic Fang, can be considered cold iron from a point of view of damage reduction. So once you get that spell, your animal companions can act like cold iron. But if you don't have that, it's not going to work. Now, eventually, I'm going to add Ekondeo to my party. And when I find him, at about the same time, I generally find, I think it's called the Troll Reaver, the axe. It's a great axe that does acid damage as well, so it's great for taking down trolls. I'm going to be giving that to him as his backup weapon. So it's a good magical weapon. It's not cold iron, but it's a good magical weapon. That leaves me 3 other rangers to add to the party, because I'm going to have Lindsay with me as well. Oh, and I also didn't mention, because I don't get Ekondeo till later on in the game, I'm not going to use any of the other standard NPCs in my party. It's only going to be rangers and Lindsay. So when I get to Oleg's and I can only afford 2 rangers, our party is only going to be the 4 of us until I can afford enough money to get the 3rd extra ranger, and then it's only going to be the 5 of us all the way through until we get Ekondeo. The only exception to that is if I do any of the quests which require someone else, like Valerie or Amiri or whatever, in which case I will add them in and make it up to 6 if we don't already have 6 in the party. Okay, but that's going to be the plan. I'm going to have Ekondeo, as I said, as my other ranger. I'm also going to have a female elven ranger who's going to have longbow. She's going to have panther as her animal companion. Sorry, leopard as her animal companion. I keep calling it panther, but it's leopard. And I'm going to let her have a backup weapon as well, and it's probably going to be an elven curved sword. So at some point, I'm going to try and slip into her feats weapon finesse, because that's a finessable weapon, and she will have a higher dex than she will a strength. So I can slip that in. I may not give her any wisdom. I might just give her strength, dex, and con and leave it at that. I may even just give her dex and con, and that's it. I don't know. But I'm not necessarily going to give all of my rangers high wisdom, because they don't necessarily need it. But I will see. I'm also going to have a half-orc ranger. Again, it's probably going to be another female. We'll see. They're going to have the monitor lizard as their companion, which I haven't really played around with much, so we're going to see how that goes. She's going to use a heavy crossbow, and I'm going to let them have a backup weapon. And it's probably going to be the orc double axe. So you can see where I'm going here. I'm actually picking all of the races that have like named weapons after them, which means the last of the rangers is going to be a dwarven ranger. Her animal companion is probably going to be the boar. She's going to have a heavy crossbow, and either dwarven war axe, which is going to be easy to get for her in the first place, or, if we can find them, a dwarven ergosh. Now, for both of those, for the half-orc and the dwarf, I need to sneak in somewhere in their feats two-weapon fighting so that they can use those weapons without major disadvantages. But that's going to be the plan. If I can find those weapons around, that is. I'm not going to go out of my way to buy them, but if they appear in the game, which I'm pretty sure there's at least, +1 versions of those that do appear as loot in places, then they will go to those companions. But if I have to, I'm also going to keep an eye out for any cold iron weapons to give to anybody to cover those sorts of things that we just cannot do damage with bows. So that's my general idea of the way I want to play this. The style of playthrough, the proposed companions, what have you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring you back either once we level up on our way to Oleg's, or when I'm at Oleg's, if I'm leveling up there, and then we're going to get our extra companions and we're going to go from there. So this is probably just going to be creating a few companions this episode, and that's going to be it, hopefully. Okay, we are back with our standard party at Oleg's after the prologue. And we got a level, so I'm really just going to show you my level because I don't care about the other characters, really. I'm not going to be using them. Well, except for Lindsay, of course, so I might level her up as well. And then we'll cut to buying the other companions. So just standard here. Definitely doing archery, taking rapid shot. Nothing really all that spectacular here. I never use this demoralize, really. Mostly because it's a standard action. It just takes up too much of your time in the middle of combat to try and freak somebody out. And Lindsay, we're going to do our standard build for Lindsay, although I could have shifted her over to a Sylvan Sorceress, I think. Problem is I want her for some of her healing abilities, I guess. And I like her as a bard, you know. Bards have their uses, don't get me wrong. I'm just not a full party of them. We're going to take skill focus in trickery. And remove fear. We definitely want that remove fear. Technically, Valerie got feared in the main fight in the courtroom just before. I mean, we still got through the fight without a problem, but yeah, being able to remove fear this early in the game is a good thing because you have a lot of opponents who try and use it against you. Okay, be right back. Okay, as I said, we are back. Got myself a bunch of money by selling up everything I didn't want. So let's get some of our mercenary companions. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with this portrait for our Elven Ranger. It's not quite a leopard. I think that's actually supposed to be a wing there, so that must be some sort of griffin-y thing. But it looks reasonable, and it's the best one that I found so far. So we need this reddish hair. I think that pale red is probably better. Yeah, it helps if I pick the right thing. And the portrait, yeah, actually that hairstyle I think does. Yeah. No need to change anything. We did actually pick elf, didn't we? Yes, we did. Good. Ranger. So, first things first, what can we do with this? Yeah, I think I can live with that. Perception. I've got... What have I got? I took athletics, mobility, trickery, perception, and persuasion, didn't I? Okay, so I definitely want someone with those two skills. Actually, I want two people with those skills. You got one more point. I'm going to chuck it in use magical device. I'm going to try and give a lot of these guys use magical device just because we're going to need it. I do need someone to take law religion though at some point. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it this way. Law nature, law religion. The next one I'm going to give knowledge world, knowledge arcana rather than these two. Didn't take any trickery there, though. That's the problem. I really should have. No, I got Lindsay and I've got my main character with trickery, so that should be fine. Okay, that's a good start. point blank shot. Undead are going to be your creature of choice for now. Chaotic good and a name, Soliel. Give her her second level. Now, where I'm going to go interesting with this is in my archery feat, I'm going to take rapid shot before I take precise shot. No. If I could have taken precise shot before point blank shot, that would have been great. I'll leave rapid shot till later. I was thinking about taking rapid shot first because I can, when normally you can't. But the thing is that precise shot will be better because it reduces the penalty for the -4 penalty that you take when attacking into melee. So that's a good idea. Let's take our other one. Okay, our half-orc ranger portrait. It was either that one or this one. And while that animal companion looks really nice and that overall that looks really quite interesting, it's a hyena and you can't even choose a hyena. There's this one here where you got this little Wolverine type thing, which would be good. I've decided I was going to use the monitor lizard, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to use the bear. We'll decide later on, I guess. No, definitely that one. Yeah. Okay. So, half-orc, female. What hairstyles do we have? That one, I think. And is there a sort of... Yes, that's a better complexion, better colour. What have we got face-wise? Yeah, I like that one a little bit better. Just drop down the body size a little bit. Wonderful. Ranger. Dex to 18. Perception. Use magic device. And trickery. Very good. Wrong one. Perception, not persuasion. Glad I double-checked that. I was going to give her a crossbow, though, wasn't I? No, I can give her a longbow. Point-blank shot. The favourite enemy I was going to do for this one is going to be a little bit different. I don't do this one very often. Vermin. Okay, another chaotic good and a name. Fazzy, I think it was. Yep, that was it. Okay. And let's level up. That's all looking good. Precise shot. Complete. And there we go. That is our party of rangers. Or what we can do at the moment, anyway. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this first episode of my new sort of playthrough where I'm just going to highlight things as I'm going along. Hopefully this means that I personally will be able to finish this, because otherwise, if I tried to do this every single episode, go and do the actual, bit by bit, I've realised that this is going to take somewhere in the nature of 200 odd episodes, and I don't think I can produce that many in one series, and I know you're probably not going to want to watch that many. So instead, this is just going to be the highlights package of, I'm going to come in for certain combats and for level ups and interesting things that I find along the way, and we'll see how we go. Thanks for joining me. If you like this episode, please give me a like and share it with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest episodes, and I will see you for the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.